First of all, I'd just like to say this is really cool.
Look, can we just talk about something else, please?
Since it's already quiet, I guess we might as well start the team meeting.
Greetings, little big leaguers, wherever you're listening or watching, and welcome to episode 1 of the Little Big Fantasy League podcast for the 2026 LBFL season. It is Monday, February 23rd, and we are excited to kick off our second year of this podcast. And tonight I am joined by Joe and Carter. Fellas, it feels good to be back. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing well.
A long time for the pod, so good to be back too.
Yeah, definitely excited to kick off this year well.
Kind of feels like we never left, not gonna lie.
And it does.
Yikes!
Well, we've got plenty to cover tonight. We've got a new soundboard. I do have some keybinds, so be on the lookout for more of those beautiful sound effects. But first, we will get into the 2026 Stash Draft, which took place last night. That is our league's annual draft of prospects and rookies. Then we'll get into talking about the first trade in LBFL 2026 season, a blockbuster deal between Tom and Walt, who have some history of trading previously in past seasons. And then finally, we will finish with our classic thought-provoking statements and shoutouts. Should be a great episode. So why don't we get right into it here and talk about the Stash Draft. So last year's Stash Draft, which was the first annual, only had 5 total rounds. Of course, a lot of prospects from the top 100 list. For this year, were actually drafted last year, which meant not quite slim pickings for this year's draft. However, it was a little bit more of a limited selection, and it was definitely interesting to see each team owner's different strategy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through one by one and take a look at each team owner's stash, including what was their current roster from last year, which could include 2 to 5 players, as well as our draft selections from last night. And we're going to go in order of draft order. And so this season, Walt, bye week, had the first pick. You may have seen our YouTube short from a few weeks ago, which highlighted pretty much exactly the decision that everyone knew Walt was going to be making, which was selecting Pirates prospect Konnor Griffin first overall. Want to get your guys' thoughts on what Konnor Griffin could maybe bring to Walt's team, and why was he the obvious number 1 overall choice this year?
Yeah, so Walt being a Pirates fan, you had to know he was going to take Konnor there with the first pick. Obviously you're going to take the number 1 overall prospect if you got that first pick. He absolutely flew up the boards this year, which was good to see. 19 years old. He's definitely expected to break into the big leagues at some point this year, whether it be at the start of the season and he gets that starting job, or maybe they hold him off for a little bit, get him some more minor league appearances. Either way, definitely a good to see. I love the pick. Definitely expected to be the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft.
Yeah, it will be exciting. And even just looking at the contents of Walt's team too, it looks like his main shortstop is Trevor Story. So even I think it's going to be a huge benefit for his team moving forward with that pick for sure.
Yeah, that's a really good point about his current shortstop. And I think, looking at how everybody approached this draft, someone had commented after the draft yesterday that there were a lot of pitchers selected. And, I think for myself going through my team and just kind of looking at, well, what positions do I need here was a big part of my strategy. And obviously that maybe played into what Walt was thinking with some of his picks. Now, another one of his picks that I thought was interesting is Blue Jays international player. That is Kazuma Okamoto, first baseman and third baseman. Gives him some nice positional flexibility. And he was taken in round two. Were you guys surprised to see him go in round two? There were a few international prospects. There was three in this stash draft that were selected. So were you guys surprised to see Okamoto go early, or is it not a surprise because he is major league ready?
Yeah, he was definitely on my big board. The thing that kind of shied me away from taking him early on was his age. I mean, 29 years old, definitely a little old. However, MLB ready, that's definitely not something to scoff at. I mean, that's important. He'll be able to contribute right away, which is nice. But definitely the reason that I kind of shied away, like I said, was that age. But you know, first base, third base is what it's looking like. And if you needed that position, definitely could be a huge contributor from day one. Has better strikeout numbers than Murakami over there. So definitely like to see that. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think it was a good pick by him. I would say a little surprised he went so early. I was thinking he might go around, more round four or so. But yeah, I think it's still a good choice.
Yeah, like I said before, I like that he can play first and third. I think the infield opens up a little bit more for the Blue Jays this year with not having, Bo Bichette as has moved over to the Mets this season. Yeah, he was up on my list as well. Didn't really know when he was going to be selected, but yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, Joe. The age 29 kind of strayed me away from him a little bit. I do try to go a little bit younger when it comes to the stash. Obviously, you're thinking more of like your traditional rookie that's going to be in their early 20s or somebody that you can maybe just kind of like hold on to for the future. So we won't have time to obviously go through every single selection, but were there any other picks from Walt that kind of jumped out?
Yeah, like I briefly touched on yesterday after the stash draft, when a couple of guys hung around and were just talking. I like his round five pick. I'm a big fan of Owen Casey or Cassie, however you say it. Um, he was the big piece in that Edward Cabrera trade. Um, Casey being on the Met, the not the Mets, the Cubs, now moving to the Marlins. I think he is going to provide pretty much day one for them. And on a Marlins team that isn't the strongest, he could really be that shining point and probably get a lot of good chances with him, I think.
Um, it's pretty crazy. I just want to point out too that like based on his stash draft from last year and this year, I mean, he's got now Connor Griffin, JJ Weatherholt, and Cole Emerson, and I mean, yeah, that's number one, number five, and number nine in like the MLB pipeline right now. So it pretty insane for Walt coming into the season.
Yeah, and pretty crazy too, considering that he just fell out of a playoff spot last year. And so obviously he wins the lottery. Some good fortune for him after making the playoffs last season, just barely misses it. Or I'm sorry, he made the playoffs the first season, just barely misses it last season, and then ends up with that number one overall pick. It's that wheel of wow that determines
Hmm.
all fates.
Definitely the wheel of wow for sure.
We're
We
going to
got
move on
lucky. We'll see
to
how it pays out.
definitely. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next team. That's Cade, Ohtani's interpreters. He had four selections, and I think Thomas White was a really good round one. Had I been a little bit higher up, that was definitely a player that I was looking to take. He is MLB ready here in 2026 for the Marlins. He is the number one ranked left-handed pitcher on MLB Pipeline Top 100 prospects. And so I think that a lot of team owners had Thomas White on their radar. I really like the selection going second overall in the 2026 LBFL stash draft.
Yeah. Um, of the guys that he drafted yesterday, Thomas White is the only one that I really knew much about. That's not to say his other picks weren't strong. I just was not super well versed in them. But yeah, Thomas White definitely has a good chance to end up being a beast for him. Miami's had some pretty nasty pitchers come up relatively recently. Some of them have dealt with injury issues. You know, Edward Cabrera has been injured a little bit and is no longer on the team, but they also had Yuri Perez. And they had Max Meyer, I believe, who was also pretty nasty. So I like the pick. I think Miami can probably develop him, and definitely should be nice seeing him this year as a big lefty.
Yeah, I love the pick as well. It was definitely someone who was on my radar in the first round there. I think he's going to be an amazing starter someday once he's finally up and ready. And I like his second pick too, Snelling. I think that's also a great pick. But yeah, I think he did well at those beginning rounds there, especially with that Thomas White pick.
Yeah, I'm looking at his current roster. Andrew Painter, Chase DeLauder, a couple of other good names up there. I remember Andrew Painter was on my list from last year's stash draft. I think he fell a little bit in the top 100 compared to last year, but still, I think Painter's a guy for the Phillies that definitely has some potential. He might even crack the rotation this year. So yeah, really good, solid prospects for Cade carrying over from last year, and looks like some more solid names from last night. Let's go ahead
Great.
and look at the newest team owner, Gordy, the Brant Hurters Fan Club, making a splash here with the third overall pick. He selected, I hope I am pronouncing this one correctly, Josu de Paula. I think that one kind of surprised the league. I don't think that we expected him to be drafted so soon. However, he is ranked number 15 overall in the top 100. Looks like he has made it as far as Double A. May not get called up for the Dodgers this year, especially because of their depth, but is on track for a debut in 2027. He's only 20 years old.
Yeah, I love the pick. I think Gordy's kind of thinking long term here. I know in the articles, that I've seen that DePaula is kind of predicted to be in like the top 10 for next year. I don't think he is predicted to come up this year as well. But he is a very, very high prospect. And yeah, I thought it was a really strong round one. I think overall, all of Gordy's picks I really loved. I think he was one of the highlights of the stash draft as far as like the team owner doing really well. I really liked all of his picks, especially Ryan Sloan. That is a huge pitching prospect that has kind of I feel like really skyrocketed this past couple of months in the offseason here, his name. So yeah, I think he had a very, very strong stash draft here last night.
Yeah, I think Gordy, going into this year as the new owner, kind of being dealt a team that he had, and quite honestly, probably not one of the stronger teams in the league. But that's not to say that Gordy can't turn it around. I think he has plenty of knowledge and he knows what he's doing. Probably the best piece that he was dealt was Bubba Chandler. But I think he really turned his team around with this draft. I think he has the smarts and the know it all to be able to fix this team, and I think this draft is a really solid start for it.
Yeah, Chandler carrying over from last year, I think, is absolutely huge. I think the Pirates are going to be better than people think this year because they have such a nice pitching core. I mean, they went out and got Marcell Ozuna. Like, they actually spent a little bit of money for once. So excited to see what that Pirates staff can do, and it will be really interesting to see like when Gordy decides to call up Bubba Chandler, because it's like, how long do you wait on it? I was talking with him this past weekend, and he seemed to kind of think that he didn't need a whole lot more pitching at this point. However, I have not looked at his keepers at this point, but I do know that the Justice League was very thin on pitching last year. He had too many bench bats. And so I think what Gordy may realize throughout the first few weeks is that you can't afford to have too many bench bats, even with our new added roster spot for this year. So I could see him calling Bubba Chandler up one of those first weeks just for a little bit more pitching depth.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Pitching is something in this league that can sometimes come at a premium. So, yeah, it's nice to have some bench bats in case you have a guy that goes through an injury or you get a guy that doesn't play necessarily every day and he gets some rest. You kind of platoon a couple guys, but starting pitching and even relievers, honestly, are two very premium items to have in this league. So, having Bubba Chandler that could possibly be a really, really solid piece for the Pirates this year. Definitely a good advantage for him.
Let's move over to Tom. No longer the barrel-aged rye guys. He is taking on a new team name this year with a new team logo. It's Miggy sitting in a barrel wearing a bucket hat. He is now the barrel-aged Boyz, which was actually one of his team's nicknames last year. He kind of declared his team as the barrel-aged Boyz last year unofficially, and this year I've just realized as I was going in earlier that he has changed his name. So, new year, new Tom, it's looking like here, but he takes Munetaka Murakami round 1 with the 4th overall pick. 26 years old, first base and third base, good positional flexibility for the White Sox. I had him on my list. However, I did have noted down that he does have kind of a high strikeout rate. So, kind of will be interesting to see how he transfers over to Major League pitching. I know that there have been some international prospects that have come over and struggled a little bit. However, I think he does have a really good opportunity being in a White Sox lineup to play every day, to hit high up in that lineup. And so, being the youngest of the international players in this draft, I think it's a solid 4th selection.
Yeah, looking at Murakami's World Baseball Classic stats, he's definitely had some clutch moments in those games that he's played. Um, he definitely, like you had mentioned, has that age advantage over the other international prospects, which is huge. Does have high strikeout numbers, but he does have a ton of pop. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can keep those strikeouts under control or if he's just going to let it ride and take the strikeouts with the homers.
Yeah. I think it was a good pick too. You mentioned the strikeouts. It might be one of those things where, there might be some growing pains at the beginning of the season in April, May here, facing that major league pitching. But I can definitely see him, having like a huge second half after the middle there.
Yeah, should be interesting to see what these international players can do. I like the pick. Major League ready, you slot them right into your lineup. And honestly, if you go in and look at waivers right now, which just opened up about 2 hours ago by John, there are not too many first basemen or third basemen out there, especially third baseman. You'd be surprised. We are not living in the mid 2000s anymore where you've got first basemen hitting 30 home runs, driving in 100 runs, and they're not making the All-Star game. So it's just not as deep of a position at this point anymore. Now, a big topic of discussion after the draft last night was Jonah Tong being dropped by Carter Rizztopia. Did not decide to keep Jonah Tong. Now, for me personally, I did not register who Jonah Tong was, and the fact that he was on the board. I knew Tong last year. I knew he came up for the Mets, had a lot of potential. And I do want to get your thoughts here, Carter, on not keeping Jonah Tong because that was a controversial move after talking with some of the team owners last night.
Yeah, I also had, Peyton Tolley, and that was kind of like um I only wanted to keep one because I knew at the start of like the beginning of the season there was a good possibility both wouldn't even be sort of up by opening day. Um, I felt like both kind of needed to do a little more baking in the minor leagues, So it was kind of just executive decision there, just to kind of pick one and drop the other. But yeah, Tom's a great prospect, and I didn't want to drop him, but just felt like I had to.
Curious to know, who were
As-
you between dropping? Was there anybody else that you had in mind, pitcher, hitter, um, that you considered dropping at that point? That wasn't Peyton Tall.
I think it was pretty much between just Peyton and him. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. I think Joe, you quoted last night that had you known that Tong was on the board, you would have considered maybe even drafting him in the first round. Now, he's definitely fallen a little bit in that top 100. He's number 48, but still, given that most of the top 30 were already, or maybe 20, top 20 to 30 were already on team owners' stashes. After maybe sleeping on it last night, would you still say that you would have drafted Jonah Tong potentially in the first round had you known that he was available?
I think there's a solid chance. The very last pick of the first round, JD's pick, I was scrolling through the list and I had come across Jonah Tong and I thought it was a mistake because I had sworn that he was on someone's roster. I did not know at the time it was Carter's at one point, but I thought it was a mistake. So I didn't even think about it. And then when Tom took him 2 picks before me and it was an allowable pick, that one hurt because I was like, dang, I was 2 picks away from potentially being able to get Jonah Tong, and having him to pair with Amai in that 1-2 slot that in my draft, that would have been really nice. So that one hurts, but you know, we roll with the punches, and it wasn't the first time, and it won't be the last time that someone gets taken right before I want him. So it is what it is.
And it sounded like that happened quite a bit last night for some people too. So yeah, pretty interesting. Few other good picks here for Tom. I think that he's got some really good names on this list. Briseño, obviously a Tigers prospect. Zaire Hope is in the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, pretty highly touted prospect as well. And then Fuentes, a name I've also heard. Any other thoughts on any of the round 3 through 6 picks for the barrel aged boys?
I just
Yeah,
played. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the only one I was really familiar with was Briseño, and I just like him because he's a Tiger. Honestly, I mean, I think he's got a lot of potential, but if he was there later in my draft, I was going to take him. So definitely a good move by Tom there.
Yeah, I was about to say the same exact thing. I plan on taking him at round 3 too. So that he was pretty much number one on my list there for round 3. So yeah, great move. I think he's a great prospect as well.
All right, let's move to Schwarbenbach enthusiast. He only had 2 picks last night because his stash is absolutely stacked. Kyle was playing the long game last year, and still made the playoffs last year. He's the last um, I guess he's the first non-lottery team to make a selection last night. And I mean, you look at these names: Bazana, Clark, Meyer, McGonigal, Salas is pretty solid as well. I mean, those are some names on his current roster. But I do want to talk about Braden Montgomery of the White Sox and also Caleb Bonham. Any thoughts on those two guys from last night, round 1 and 2?
Um, I definitely think Caleb Bonham was a huge move. It was someone I was eyeing to stash as well. I think he's pretty underrated. I could definitely see him like, yeah, I don't think he's ready for this year as well. I think he'll be in a future year, but yeah, I could see him going way up the ranks after this year as well. I think it's definitely an underrated guy, and yeah, I thought that was a great pick when he took that name.
Yeah, I definitely think it's an interesting move taking two Chicago White Sox. I think the Chicago White Sox, yeah, they've been a team that's gotten absolutely beaten up the last few years. But I think with the amount of young guys they have, I definitely think we could see a big turnaround from them. Probably not this year, but definitely in the future years to really just hopefully turn around their franchise and get them back into the playoffs because they've been pretty miserable as of late. But that's not to say that these young guys like Montgomery and Bonnemer, Murakami, these guys can really help out that franchise. So definitely like the picks from Kyle, and I really like his stash. Having those two Tigers, Clark and McGonigal,
Hmm.
definitely love to see it because there's a good chance McGonigal comes up this year, whether he's on the opening day roster or not. I think he makes an appearance in 2026, and I think Clark probably isn't too far behind him. I think we've seen some really good flashes out of him last year at the Futures game. Um, and obviously, spring training is still early this year, but I do like what I've seen out of him so far in spring training as well.
For sure.
Yeah, I it's similar to Wall. I think comparing both, the previous year's stash and this year's stash, like his entire stash is just absolutely packed. So yeah, pretty cool to see. I think he's definitely looking good this next couple of years here.
All right, let's go to Joe. Kerry Bonds. Tatsuya Amai was very high up on my list. 27 years old, starting pitcher, Houston Astros, one of the three international prospects. And honestly, I think that he was a shoe in for round one. I really like this pick. Um, I would have taken him if he would have fallen to me, I think. So yeah, I just want to get your thoughts, Joe, on why Amai, obviously major league ready, but what do you see in him that made you select him in round one?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that is the flashiest name out there, although he does have a great name itself. Um, he shows consistency, and that's one thing that I think is going to be huge for that Astros organization. Um, Astros have had a lot of phenomenal pitchers in past years. Framber Valdez, now a Tiger, Justin Verlander with the Astros. So I definitely think they know what they're doing with pitching. And I think that can be really huge for a player who's just coming into the league. I think they're going to know how to use him well. I think they're going to utilize him very well. 27, not the most ideal age, but like you had mentioned, MLB ready, can come out there and eat up a lot of innings for him, get some Ks. It's definitely something I like to see. And yeah, I'm glad he fell to me, and I think he's going to be huge this year.
Another name I want to highlight that we talked about yesterday as well is Justin Crawford, who JD, who had done quite a lot of research, had informed us that is actually former Tampa Bay Rays star Carl Crawford's son. And we looked up Justin Crawford last night. Looks exactly like his dad, has some speed. Justin is in the Red Sox organization, another team that his dad Carl played for. So that's a pretty cool pick for round two, especially after learning about the father son connection.
Yeah, quite honestly, I didn't really know much about him going into this at all. I saw his name on our big board, and I selected him because he was towards the top of the list. And when we did look up his stats, had a really, really great AAA season last year. I believe he had like 46 bags. I think he hit 330 in AAA, which is obviously, the highest level right before the majors. So you got to think that some of that talent is going to transfer over to the big leagues. And having your dad as a great big leaguer who really knew how to put bat to ball and swipe those bags, it's only positives in my eyes.
Any quick thoughts on Joe's stash here? Players that we have not talked about, Carter, as we will have to be taking our commercial break here in about 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah, I think Joe had a fantastic stash all around. And I was also a guy I was probably going to take that first round there if it wasn't for you. So that was great. And year 4, 5, and 6, I was also definitely eyeing those guys up, especially 5 and 6, Joshua and Dax Kilby. I was definitely eyeing scooping those guys up later in the stash there. So yeah, I those two guys are really big names I saw in the research that I did. So I think strong draft all around.
All right, let's go right back to you, Carter, here. Rizztopia, the next one to draft, chooses catcher Carter Jensen in the first. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one here.
John.
John,
Yep.
Detroit Mariners, next pick. He
Yeah,
snags.
Joe's
skip
like,
the
go
commish.
ahead.
Yeah, my bad there. Getting too far ahead of myself. John snagged Cade Anderson, round one here. Um, Also ended up with Ethan Holiday, which I thought was interesting considering he already has Jackson Holiday.
Mhm.
He's already talked about a potential name change even before he drafted Ethan. I think this sets him up nicely for a name change, but he only had 4 rounds. Um, what are your guys' thoughts quickly on Cade Anderson?
Really like Cade. I was between Amai and Cade for my first round pick. So really like Cade. I also really like his round two pick in Liam Doyle. I think he's got a lot of swing and miss stuff. Good whiff rates. So definitely sad to see him go off the board because I wanted to snag him in the third round.
Yeah. Um, I absolutely love everything I've seen about Kate Anderson as well. It was also someone I was looking to get first round. It was like Joe and John had the 1-2 punch with Amaya and Kate Anderson right before me that I was kind of looking to get. So yeah, I think very strong first round there. I really like his pick Pena at number 3 as well. That's a big name as well that looks to be a big contributor someday way down the line. But yeah, I really like Kate Anderson and Pena for his picks.
Yeah, I think Anderson is solid. LSU, it'll be interesting to see how long they keep him down. Left-handed pitcher, number 3 overall on left-handed pitchers in the top 100. So definitely more of that play for the long term, but solid move. All right, now we'll go to Carter and Carter Jensen, catcher, Carter's namesake, drafted in the first round here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love the name.
I really like that move. I think he's going to be a really good catcher for Kansas City. Right now Kansas City's catcher is an aging Salvador Perez. So definitely good to get some young blood in there for Kansas City. I think he's going to be huge. And then looking at your fourth round pick of Eli Willits, the number 1 overall pick last year. Crazy that he fell to the fourth round. I think everybody was kind of weary because of the age. I mean, being 18 and he won't be ready for a little while. But I had told myself if he made it to round 5, I was snagging him because that was a huge steal for you, Carter. So I definitely like the draft a lot. I don't know too much about round 2 and round 3. But I would imagine if you're willing to take them in 2 and 3, they're probably some pretty sick players. So I like the draft a lot.
That's like the dueling Edwards,
Thank you.
Edward and Eduardo. But yeah, Willits falling to round 4 was crazy. I think that surprised everyone. I think just being 18, everyone kind of was like, well, who knows if he's going to pan out being a position player drafted out of high school. But it could definitely pay off. I mean, look at Riley Green, right? Drafted out of high school, trust the process. Max Clark, he's maybe a year away, might get called up in September this year. So, the patience will hopefully pay off for you. But, there always is that one drop that you can use, no questions asked every year. So, to a certain extent, you're not stuck with him if he, happens to have an injury or if he just doesn't develop in the way that they expect. So definitely a sneaky round 4 pick. We've got 2 more teams to get to, but first, we do want to hear a word from our sponsor for today's episode.
Just want to give a quick shout out to Rocket Money. Thank you so much for sponsoring our podcast. We really appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't get the Rockets in time.
Want to do it again?
I'll do it for Valentine's Day. Thank you, Valentine's Day.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode 1 of the 2026 Little Big Fantasy League podcast. We've got 2 more teams to get to talking about our 2026 stash draft, which took place last night. Looking at the championship matchup from last year, it was the Luke Collins Throbbers against the Stephen HawKINGS. Let's go to my team first, the Throbbers. I had 6 rounds to draft, which was actually really nice, and kind of wish there would have been a few more picks, I'm not going to lie. I kind of surprised myself with Sal Stewart first round. He does have a chance to be the Reds starting first baseman. There's definitely some other competition there. I know Christian Encarnacion Strand is one of those guys that he'll be competing for a job with. But yeah, I definitely surprised myself with going for Sal Stewart, but I did need potentially a first baseman. I lost Bellinger as a first baseman. He's now only listed as an outfielder, and so my only other first baseman is Salvador Perez, who very well could lose his first base eligibility at some point, and he is getting up there in age. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on Sal Stewart round 1.
Yeah, I like your approach. You knew that you had a chance at losing that first base spot with Bellinger. You went out, you solved the problem. I think he was pretty much the highest first baseman that you could have taken here. And on a Reds team that's pretty young and showed some life last year, I definitely like this pick, and I could see the Reds being a playoff team this year, and possibly Sal Stewart really helping them to get over that next hump.
Yeah, I love the pick too. I was really going back and forth between him and Carter Jensen as one of my picks. Even even as I was kind of saying the name Carter Jensen in my head, I'm like, oh man, I might regret this later for not picking Sal Stewart. So it was definitely someone I was eyeing up as well. I think it was a really strong first round pick.
Appreciate it. Oh, he is on the trade block, so let me know if you have any offers.
Oh, okay.
Why not, right? Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like Logan Henderson was kind of a sneaky pick. I had him on my sneaky list. He didn't obviously show up on the top 100 prospects. Talking with some guys after, he was on other team owners' radars, which was good to hear, because I felt like I wasn't reaching too much. I know Tom probably would have snagged him next round. So I'm glad I took him when I did, because he is major league ready. I have a couple fringe guys that are on my current roster that I know I could drop. So Henderson could get called up sooner rather than later, and pitched well for Milwaukee at the end of last season before getting injured. He had a season-ending injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a sneaky pick for sure. Yeah, I really like that move, and like you said, he pitched super well when he was up. So I think he already showed he was major league ready and stuff. So I thought that was a great pick, and I loved your second round pick as well. Early, he's a really big pitching prospect as well. On the Red Sox, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that round 2 was strong as well.
Yeah, I really like the round 2 pick with Early there. He was on my list. I was going to get ready to possibly take him in round 3. if he wasn't snagged, obviously, in round two. And I couldn't figure out why the name Logan Henderson was familiar to me. I did not know that he started last year. I thought for some reason in my head they were two different people, but I think at one point I had Logan Henderson on my team, or I was about to pick him up and somebody else picked him up. I can't remember. Um, but yeah, definitely a big name on my board. Love the sneaky pick with him not being in our top 100 list here. So a solid draft by you for sure.
Appreciate that. Yeah, my strategy towards the end, kind of in those later rounds, I was just doing some last minute research, looking at some different sources for different top 100 lists that differed from MLB pipelines. That's one of the reasons I took Carlos LaGrange, Yankees prospect that can top out at 103. I saw an article saying that Aaron Judge thought very highly of him because he can throw gas, and so having Aaron Judge already on my team, I was like, well, I guess if Judge likes him, I better snag him here in round 5.
Yeah, I mean, getting endorsed there by quite possibly the best hitter in baseball doesn't really hurt much.
Definitely not. Let's go to the last team, the Stephen HawKINGS, last year's championship winner. Seth Hernandez, round 1. I think this is a name that everyone had on their list. Definitely considered snagging him myself. 19 years old, can throw 100 miles per hour. He's in the Pirates organization, which we've clearly seen that the Pirates push guys through their system very quickly. They develop well. So I really like Seth Hernandez, number 29 overall prospect on MLB pipeline at the moment.
Yeah, definitely a huge fan of him, like you had said, with the Pirates organization being willing to move up their guys pretty quickly. Um, obviously him still being really young, he won't see the field this year, but I think if he develops well this year, there's a good chance that we see him in 2027.
Yeah, I really love that pick too. It was someone on my radar as well. I know in doing they had put like Kate Anderson above Seth Hernandez, but Seth I had heard a lot that Seth Hernandez technically has like the highest ceiling if he reaches like his full potential compared to really with any of the pitching prospects. So possibly that's what JD was kind of chasing when he drafted him. So it'll be really interesting watching him develop and stuff. And yeah, I think it was a very strong first round pick.
Can't not talk about Bryce Rayner, shortstop prospect for the Tigers, 6'3". Everybody's heard his name at this point. He was the Tigers' first round selection, number 11 overall in the 2024 draft. Has only spent time in Lakeland so far, but has done pretty well. Looking at his 25 stats here, and definitely no surprise that he came off the board, as did several Tigers prospects.
Yeah, I definitely like that pick. He was doing well prior to that injury that he suffered last year. Um, One interesting thing is, his position listed as shortstop. However, the Tigers also have the number 2 prospect, McGonigal, at shortstop. So I think there's a chance we see a position switch for one or the other. I guess depends on whoever's defense is better and what our need is at the time of them getting called up. But I definitely like that pick, like the hometown pick out of JD there.
Yeah, I think that was a very strong pick as well.
I know JD probably did the most research, it sounded like, of anybody. He did research the prior Sunday to yesterday. So when we were talking post draft and throwing out all these names, JD knew what teams they were on. He knew how to pronounce their names throughout the draft. So I don't know a lot of these guys. I don't know Hopkins or Witherspoon, but I do want to make mention of Jesus Made, who is the number 3 overall prospect right now. obviously on his current stash already, but you can't discount these guys that weren't necessarily taken yesterday. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's a number 3 overall prospect. He's a middle infielder. Second basemen are hard to come by. The Brewers also seem to just call guys up, push guys through their system. Like, he's only 18 right now, but still might be a couple years out. So that's a really nice player to keep on your stash. And now that trades have opened up on stashes, I mean, this, depending on if JD's going for it again this year, I mean, that's a player he could potentially trade later in the season to get somebody that is major league ready to help give him a boost before the trade deadline. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think another player on his stash that quite possibly got overlooked is Eldridge. Already has some major league experience, getting called up last year with the Giants for a little bit. Obviously still has that rookie eligibility. But dude is just a huge big body in the plate. First baseman for the Giants. I really like him a lot. 21 years old. Can really tear the cover off the ball. So I really like Eldridge as well for JD.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of similar to what I said about Watt and Kyle's teams too. I mean, he's got number 7 there and number 3 already from previous stash. His stash is just looking super excellent. Yeah, both Walcott and Made have just huge ceilings. So yeah, he's looking really good on his stash.
awesome to take a look through the current stashes, especially the players that were just drafted in the 2026 stash draft last night. Exciting time. I swear you could hear a pin drop through most of that draft. The team owners were focused in on the task at hand, but some good discussion afterwards and some comedic moments throughout, of course, as well. But great to have everybody get together for yesterday's draft. And hard to declare a winner at that point, but will be really interesting to see, throughout the season, some of these guys that get called up. The real question is, who is going to end up with as good of a stash as Joe had last year, with so many prospects being called up. Nick Kurtz, of course, the big name that came up for Joe last season. Are you hoping for the same luck this year?
Yeah, I mean, this year I think I took a little bit different of an approach. Last year I took a lot of guys that were pretty much MLB ready. This year I have a few guys in my 1 through 7 that probably won't scratch any rosters this year. I tried to have a nice balance this year, but last year having Nick Kurtz, having Jacob Wilson, having Chandler Simpson, your 2020 Cy Young Award winner Rhett Lauder, definitely some huge names, and I look forward, like I said, to seeing Rhett Lauder really dominate the league this year. Kind of put everybody on notice that he should be considered for those big awards.
Yeah, like it.
Good stuff. All right, let's move on from the stash talk and get into our first blockbuster trade of the 2026 LBFL season. The commissioners knew about it a few days in advance, but the transaction was officially processed yesterday. The barrel-aged Boyz acquiring outfielder from the Miami Marlins, Kyle Stowers, as bye week receives Seattle Mariners outfielder Randy Arozarena and Los Angeles Dodgers right-handed starting pitcher Tyler Glasnow. An interesting trade for sure, as we know that the barrel-aged Boyz strategy has been get younger, drive that average age down of his team. So, he is successful in doing that, but sends, those are a couple of big names over to Walt with Arozarena and Glasnow. Now, I think, the one thing that we associate with Glasnow, of course, are injuries. when he's been healthy, he can be one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. However, he can't seem to stay healthy. Arozarena, on the other hand, has been made for the big moments. I think he's transitioned really nicely over from the Rays to Seattle, and puts up a lot of at-bats. That's pretty high up in a lineup that is dense, so a lot of opportunities to drive in runs. So what are your guys' thoughts early on this trade, and can you at this point declare a winner?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think at this point a winner can be declared yet. Like you had mentioned with Glasnow, he has struggled with injuries over his career. When he's on, he's on. I mean, he's absolutely filthy on the mound. Big, tall guy. I think he has a lot of good qualities. Injuries, however, can wipe out all those good qualities just like that. As for Randy, I really like his move to Seattle. Like you said, I think he is now in a significantly better lineup than he was in Tampa Bay, so there's more opportunities. He hits high in that lineup, like you said. Randy, I do believe, is past his peak at this point. He still comes up in clutch moments. He's still a good hitter, but he's not that Randy Arozarena when he was in Tampa. I think you're getting a less version of Randy. Still a good version, but definitely a less. I think he's past that peak. As for Stowers, a young bat for Tom, like you said, let's get younger, let's get younger, let's get younger. That has been Tom's number one priority, it seems, in pretty much every trade, every pickup he has made. I like the moves. In Tom's second year, I think we're going to see him make that jump. And I think this is a move that could do it.
I personally thought Walt, I kind of lean more towards Walt winning that trade. I kind of think those outfielders both in that trade were almost sort of equal in trade value. So adding that pitcher was kind of like kind of a cherry on top, with kind of leaning that just slightly more towards Walt. I know he does have a ton of injury issues and stuff, but yeah, I mean, if he locks in the season, that's going to be huge for Walt's team. So I do kind of think I lean more towards him winning it, but again, yeah, I could totally be seeing a different tune, in the middle of the season. So we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, I think about the turnaround that Jacob deGrom had last year. He had a full season for me with the Rangers and just made such a big impact on my roster. I believe he ended up winning the American League Comeback Player of the Year. I don't want to go ahead and make comparisons as far as a career standpoint between deGrom and Glasnow, but from a talent perspective, I think Glasnow is not too far behind deGrom, and so if he is able to come around and have a healthy season, he's going to get a lot of wins for the Dodgers. I mean, the best team in baseball, a couple of World Series titles in a row at this point. I would agree with you, Carter, as far as the value of Stowers and Arozarena. I think it's pretty equal. I give the slight edge to Stowers. I mean, he did have a 912 OPS last year, but he is a little bit older than I thought. He is 28. Arozarena is 30, so it's not a huge age difference at that point. And then something that we've also seen is that Tom is not able to fill in an entire roster of pitchers at this point, if you look at starting pitchers and relief pitchers. So as far as a count of pitchers, I don't know if he has enough at this point. He may have a plan in the works to maybe call some guys up from his stash if possible, or to dig into waivers over the next couple of days and drop some of his hitters. So I think for Walt, it's low risk, but potential very big reward if Glasnow stays healthy, just because of how valuable pitching is in this league, as we've seen the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, and I think that Jonah Tong pick by Tom yesterday becomes all the more important with this trade for sure. Like you had mentioned, he doesn't have enough starters or relievers to fill out a complete roster. I believe he's one short on relievers, and that would mean leaving no pitchers on his bench. So being able to have Jonah Tong make that call up, I think could be very, very big for him.
Yeah, definitely an interesting trade. For it to happen so early in the year is pretty cool. We opened up trading a little bit earlier this year because everyone selected their keepers a little bit earlier this year. So we appreciate everyone selecting their keepers. To have some trades already thrown out, I think is fantastic. And then as we mentioned earlier, now that you can trade stash players too, it really is a game changer for this season. Now, I think it is also worth mentioning, if you look back to league history, this is not the first trade between Walt and Tom. And the clear-cut winner of the first trade that they made is definitely, at this point, Tom. Bye week received none other than, of course, Little Big Fantasy League favorite, Jake Berger.
Cheeseburger.
Had to throw those sound effects in for the full effect. But yeah, Tom getting Yohan Duran out of that trade with Jake Berger, I mean, that's such a good reliever to have at this point, especially with the move over to Philly. I mean, he's their lockdown guy. Philly's a way better team than Minnesota at this point. So, you know, if you look at past history, Tom did win that first one, and it will be, you know, interesting to see who wins the second trade between those two teams.
Yeah, that Jake Berger trade didn't age too well there for bye week, as Jake Berger is currently sitting on no one's team. So you hate to see that for the LBFL legend that he is. But definitely good to see Tom keep his trading ways and only continue to earn the title of trade master more and more each week.
He is the trade master. I love to see it from Tom too, being so active in the trades. And you know, with my bold prediction with Jake Berger, I just might have been, you know, a year too early. You know, 2026 might be his year. So yeah.
Oh goodness, here we go again. Strap in. Jeez. Yeah, it is worth noting that out of the last 7 trades in the LBFL, Tom has been involved in all 7 of them. So, yeah, he's making moves left and right. And actually, there are 7 different teams involved in those trades. So it's not like he's just picking a single trade partner. Like, he's trading with the whole league. So, yeah, great to see moves, the trades fuel, you know, just exciting looks at what can happen, exciting looks at, you know, what does end up happening when we kind of are able to declare a winner down the road. So can't wait to see how that one pans out. Now, as we look to wrap up.
As someone who's traded with Tom, I think I might just do it again this year. I don't know. Who knows?
I want Christopher Sanchez back. I'm regretting that one every single day, but he's the third baseman. Machado.
We do what we gotta do.
Now, as we look to wrap up our first episode of this 2026 season, are there any last-minute thought-provoking statements or shout-outs? Let's go to Joe first.
Yeah, so I got two shout outs. The first one, I will shout out my girlfriend Megan. She helped me sleeve a lot of baseball cards this weekend. Probably got a couple hundred sleeved there and sorted out. So definitely appreciate her help with that one. And the second one, I will shout out Mr. Nick Kurtz. He is quite possibly the reason that I was the unofficial official winner of last year's stash draft. So shout out to you, Big Amish.
Nice. What do you got, Carter?
I think just my thought-provoking statement is that there's just been a ton of talk, as you guys know, of, you know, possibly not having a season next year. So I think we just gotta be very mindful in this fantasy season, baseball season in general, just to smell the roses with this season and take it all in as we have it in 2026 here in the fantasy league.
Wow, that hits deep. That's so true, though. It really makes you think too, like as we were just talking about trades, like you do kind of have to be mindful of potentially losing out on a year of development for the younger players, and then for somebody that's a little bit older, losing out on one of the seasons of their prime potentially to the point where they come back. If there is a lockout, we miss the whole 2027 season, they come back in 28 and they're just not the same player at that point. So very interesting. That is 100% thought provoking.
Yeah, it would be depressing if it happened. So yeah, just gotta take this season. Yeah, just like I said, smell the roses with it because yeah, might be gone next year. We're gonna find out.
It's kind of frightening, honestly, to think about.
Yeah.
I would like to give a shout out to Kyle and Carter for the trades that went down this past weekend. Some league members got together and we had a roughly 3 hour trade night, which was pretty crazy after pretty much a 3 hour rip night. So it was just baseball cards nonstop for about 6 hours there. It was nuts. A lot of trades went down. Things got heated for sure. There is a new YouTube short that you can check out on the Batflip Productions YouTube channel that shows one of those trades happening, which happened to be the last trade of the night. So be sure to check that one out. And then thought-provoking statements. I'm just excited about what the league can do this year. I think with some of the new changes that have been implemented and expanding and having that extra roster spot, opening up trades to the stash, having a new team owner in Gordy that's really, I think, going to step in and surprise people with his baseball knowledge. Just having like one more team that's going to actually be competitive this year is really going to like take the competition up a notch. So excited about that. So should be a great season. And yeah, like Carter said, like we just got to enjoy it while it lasts here for sure.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned Gordy. I think you're absolutely right that I mean he's super knowledgeable with baseball and he's definitely going to add, a lot more competitiveness with another team like being active with their fantasy team and everything. It's gonna add a lot of competition. So yeah, I'm excited to have him with us.
On
Yeah,
that note too, oh yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I was just gonna say, not to throw any shade. It was nice having, a week every year last year where you could just count it as a win versus justice. So that it's gonna hurt not having that, but definitely glad to get an active member in here.
It's true, yeah. Bit of a
Yeah,
double-edged sword there.
good way to look at it. Honestly, I'll take the competition over the easy win at this point. I will give a shout out to Gordy as well. I know I showed these yesterday, but he did hook me up with some real nice patches. So we got the old Cleveland Indians, got a couple of nice Toronto Blue Jays patches here with the classic bird logo and then the standalone maple leaf. And probably my favorite one here is the Montreal Expos. So I think they're like iron-on patches. Might have to put these on a hat or a crew neck or something like that. I'll have to figure out what to do with them. But Gordy, appreciate the patches. That's pretty sweet. Well, everyone,
I like the original idea where you were thinking to put two of the patches on the shirt. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, but could do a hat too.
Yeah, that was quite the idea the other night. It's one that I will not show again at this point, so we can just remember that one for what it was yesterday and just move on. Well, everyone, that is going to do it for our first episode of this 2026 season. Be sure to tune in next week as we will preview the upcoming World Baseball Classic. But in the meantime, we'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. and never stop chasing your little big league dreams.